On June 27th, around 10 p.m., SJPD patrol officers responded to a report of an assault with a deadly weapon that occurred in the 2600 block of Alum Rock Avenue in a parking lot of a business. When our officers arrived, they located an adult male victim suffering from multiple stab wounds. Now, our preliminary investigation revealed that this adult male victim, who was assaulted by 3 unknown adult male suspects, had actually earlier in the day got into a previous altercation, and after parting ways, these 3 unknown suspects sought out the victim, finally located him at the described address at 2600 block of Alum Rock Avenue, and began to assault him and attack him. They all had machetes, and they violently attacked the victim. The victim was transported to a local hospital with major but non-life-threatening injuries. Our SJPD assaults unit detectives took over the investigation, conducted a thorough investigation, and identified 3 primary suspects that were responsible for the violent attack. Now, one of our suspects Herena, is actually a homicide suspect from a 2005 homicide here in San Jose. Suspect Herena was also arrested and convicted for that homicide. Our detectives were able to locate 2 of the suspects on September 10th, arrest them and book them into Santa Clara County Jail. A 3rd suspect was also arrested and booked on September 11th, the following day. All 3 were booked into Santa Clara County Jail for attempted murder. Our detectives and our officers who responded to the scene did an outstanding job taking over this investigation and making sure that these dangerous suspects are behind bars. We have no room in San Jose and in our community for violent criminals such as these 3 adult male suspects, and so I do want to commend our officers and our detectives for acting swiftly and making sure that they are no longer on our city streets threatening the lives of anyone.
Do you have any idea what they initially got into a fight about, and how far away was that fight?
The altercation that took place earlier today was somewhat close to the vicinity, also in East San Jose. I'm not sure about what they were fighting for or fighting about, but that's all part of the investigation as we determine the motives and circumstances.
Did you find all 3 machetes?
The 3 machetes that were used, I'm not sure if all 3 were located, but we were able to have evidence tying that all 3 did have the weapons used for the attack.
Any indication of why they used machetes and not bats or something else?
I mean, we can't really explain the motives and circumstances that what goes through a criminal's head, right? What kind of weapon they choose. The fact is they chose violence, and they had one goal in mind, which was seeking out this victim and causing a lot of harm and potentially murder. And so we can't say, as to their weapon of choice, they chose violence and they chose to commit a crime.
Is it unusual to have a machete attack?
I wouldn't say it's unusual. Again, I don't have statistics on specific attacks involving machetes, but again, this is something that was a violent crime. Our detectives were able to, our assault unit detectives were able to investigate, find these suspects, and make sure that they're not able to harm anyone else.
Can you tell us more about the homicide in 2005 that one of these suspects is linked to? A little bit more about that?
I don't have too much information on that previous homicide. That's well before my time, but I know it involved one adult male victim.
Was this person unhoused, or were there any circumstances that point to any sort of hate crime?
The victim or the suspects, I'm not sure about his housing status. I just know he was a resident of San Jose.
Are you releasing his identity or no?
We do not release the names of the victims.
Is there any indication that it could have been a hate crime?
We have no indication at this time that it was a hate crime. It looks like it stemmed from an earlier altercation, but again, that'll be part of the investigation.
Any indication it's gang related?
No, there's no indication at this time that it's gang related.
How much time had passed between the altercation and the actual attack?
I would say probably around 5 to 7 hours, not too much time.
Did they know before the victim and the suspects had they previous relationship?
What we know of right now is that the victim and the suspects were all unknown to each other.
Were these 3 suspects, were they related at all? Or any connection for those 3 suspects?
The 3 suspects were known to each other, but they weren't related in terms of like family or anything.
So would you classify this as random?
I wouldn't say it's random because, again, they got in an altercation earlier that day, and the suspects continued to seek out this victim to cause harm. And so in the case that they already knew they wanted to go after this particular victim, I wouldn't say it's random at all.
You guys released surveillance video. Would you say that was critical in identifying these 3 suspects?
Any eyewitness testimony, any surveillance video, anything that could help our investigation will obviously be, that's something that we look at. And so the surveillance video we show, although graphic, it really did play a key in identifying the 3 suspects.
When we're talking about the Machete injuries, how different they are from regular stabbing?
I think the victim really suffered a variety of injuries. As you can see in the graphic video, he wasn't just being, punched with fists, he was being kicked, but he was also being slashed at machetes. And so I can't speak to the injuries in terms of the nature and the damage it causes, whether it makes it life-threatening or threatening. We're just lucky and fortunate that this victim did survive the attack with major but non-life-threatening injuries.
What are they being charged with, or what were they arrested on?
The 3 suspects were arrested for attempted murder. And then charges will be through the district attorney's office.
Is it a residential area or a business area?
It was a business parking lot.
Did the suspects, were they known to police? Had they had other run-ins with the law? I know one was a homicide suspect, but what about the other 2?
I can't speak on criminal history for the suspects, although we did talk about the suspect Herrera, only because he did have a 2005 homicide history with us.